My name is Dante and this is Story Hub. So, my wife and I have a truly great relationship. I think we have argued all of twice since we have been together, 6 years. She is so doting, loving and understanding about literally everything that comes her way. Her positivity has dragged me out of dark places more times than I can count and her love for me never faltered. To say she is so far out of my league in a sense of physical attractiveness would be an understatement. I'm a chubby, nerdy, guitar nut and she, an insanely beautiful, driven, talented artist, author. We got Lila 2 years ago, after being told that my wife wasn't able to have babies. It took a lot out of my wife. So we got a puppy and eventually, my wife's depression subsided and things went back to normal. She was in therapy too. But by some miracle, she got pregnant. Before my wife even found out she was pregnant, Lila started acting really weird. Lila prefers me and always has, and I think she sensed that my wife was pregnant because every time my wife even so much as talks to or looks at me, Lila is at my feet whining, and if I pick her up, it seems like she is glaring at my wife. If my wife walks into the room, Lila bolts away from her and tries jumping in my arms. But what really pushed it to the edge was my wife and I were snuggling a few nights ago and Lila started excessive whining. She then jumped up on the bed, weaseled between us and nipped my wife's nose. I spoke to some behavioral specialists over the phone and they believe it may be a case of the dog sensing the pregnancy and becoming territorial, protecting me. It would make sense. My wife can't even touch me without Lila freaking out. She no longer listens. She is constantly underfoot, whining and trying to jump in my arms. If my wife walks up near me, Lila darts between us and trips up my wife, and it seems to be on purpose because after she trips her up, Lila will jump on me while wagging her tail a million miles a minute with a smile on her face. It's taking a toll on my wife, though she would never admit to it. She has pretty much stopped interacting. She is quite a lot, and whenever Lila starts whining now, my wife simply walks out of the room and Lila immediately stops. She has been spending her time in the living room and hardly ever with me. Whenever Lila whines or gets weird, my wife's eyes just drop to the floor and she sulks off. So, I asked my family to take my dog. If they want her, they love her and she would still be close by so I can see her. All of them lost their shot on me, saying that I'm just replacing the dog with a baby. They don't believe what's going on in the house and have even accused my wife of causing problems simply because she has no use for the dog anymore now that she's knocked up. I'm standing firm though. Either they take her or I need to rehome for the sake of my growing family. Am I an idiot? You're an idiot. Once you get a dog, that dog belongs to you, and if you can't control your dog, it's your own fault. That dog will be killed in a shelter and you know it. Not an idiot. The nip on the face would be the no-go line for me. There's no crime in rehoming a dog. I got my dog as the result of another family not being able to handle him and everyone is so much happier. Not an idiot. But there are a couple of things you need to do. 1. You need to tell your wife that you are going to rehome Lila for her safety. If she's too nice to tell you she doesn't feel safe in her own home, you need to tell her, clearly, that her safety is your priority. 2. You need to tell your family that their distrust of the events you've seen with your own eyes is unacceptable and that if they want to be part of your growing family, they need to adjust their nasty attitude about your wife. Not an idiot. Dog aggression is definitely bad. And how would they feel if the dog attacked your baby? Literally, she tried to bite your wife. Support your wife, the family will get over it. I wouldn't bother giving them the opportunity to adopt her, because they seem the type to bring the dog around later in an I told you so type of way. Just unnecessary. Now for the next story. A few years ago, I met the love of my life. We had a mutual friend who introduced us. We went to different schools. Within 4 months we were dating. He was very loving, caring, and gave me cute little gifts. I'm telling you all of this because it is very hard to doubt a man like that. I found comfort in him, and when that kind of love hits you at a young age it is dangerous most of the time. Anyway, the problem was, whenever we met, he never had his phone with him. He had excuses each time, but it didn't bother me much because, as I said, he never gave me a reason to think he would cheat on me. A little while into the relationship, he had a problem with my male friends. All my social media presence started to bother him. Again, I was in love, so I cut off a lot of my friends, deleted a lot of my socials, and did what made him feel pleased. I would always try to make him happy, but at the end he would find something to fight about. After a few months he started to ghost me and it hurt. It felt like a sudden drug withdrawal. I demanded to see his phone at that point and there were multiple chats with other girls. One particular girl was even dating him. Now when I tell you that I was devastated, I really was. I was physically ill. I couldn't leave my bed without support. He asked for a chance to explain himself and I gave it to him. He told me that the messages weren't sent by him but by his friends. Apparently his friends had his social media accounts and they were just having a little fun. It made zero sense. The girl was literally reacting to his stories and sent him very long messages on his birthday. I wanted to think this through but I couldn't. He got his friends involved and they all told me I didn't love my boyfriend because they were all confessing everything and that he was innocent, but I still didn't believe him. Even if he was innocent, this was a big deal. I had gone through all the messages and he was telling her everything about himself. The places he went, the things he did. I told him I needed some time apart to think, but he threatened me that he would kill himself if I didn't forgive him. I was scared and all his friends pressured me to forgive him, so I did. We were back together. Now that the drama was over I had a lot of time to think. If I would ask him any questions he would simply say he didn't know. How do you not know? He started to get irritated whenever I tried to bring up the topic. He would act like nothing had happened and we were a happy couple from the beginning. All he had to say was, "I have promised to never hurt you again." which I will keep. I have no explanations for whatever happened, but I can assure you that I was never talking to any girl. It was a stupid mistake which I wasn't even a part of. I realize you feel hurt, but it makes me feel terrible when you try to accuse me of something I did not do. There was never a logical discussion, only emotional manipulation. The only thing he would tell me is that I needed to trust him. We did not need to discuss it further, and that he swore upon his life that he was innocent. Day by day I became very bitter. I started to give him the same attitude he used to give me. I controlled all his social media, and I would throw tantrums about every single thing. I started to treat him the way he had treated me in the past. It hurt being like that, but a part of me felt very satisfied seeing him so miserable. I would tell him to his face that I hated him and that I was still with him because I wanted revenge and not because I was worried he would kill himself. This was not true, but I liked the look on his face whenever I said that. I would threaten to break up with him, KMS, whenever we got into huge fights. This continued for months before I realized how fricked up I was. I started to have emotional outbursts, anger outbursts, anxiety, breakdowns, and panic attacks. My whole personality had changed. A part of me was not ready to let it go just yet, so I continued to make his life hell. One day he told me he was tired and that he couldn't do it anymore. He told me that he realized his mistake and that I have punished him enough. He told me that he loved me but didn't know how to make me believe him. He was crying. Was he admitting that he cheated on me? Did he really mean what he said? I didn't know how to feel anymore. I couldn't tell if it was fake or real. That night I had a very severe panic attack and stayed at the hospital for the rest of the night. I couldn't sleep. I had made my whole life about this revenge. I had terrible grades and literally no friends. I didn't want to do this anymore. I spent the next few days thinking about everything and everyone that was affected by this relationship. I couldn't spend the rest of my life like this, right? Miserable. No hobby, friends, or anything. So I decided that it was finally time to let it go and work on my life, which was already in shambles. I apologized, broke up with him, and left. This was months ago. I am not in a position to defend my actions, but all I can say is that I am very sorry for finding peace in someone's suffering regardless of what they had done to me. My best friend had betrayed me. I came from a shitty household and had no real life. I realized that it was not just revenge. I used to dump all the frustration about my life upon him. No, I'm not justifying my terrible behavior. I just want to let go of this feeling of guilt. Life has been very hard and it's just tough to start over with the very little amount of things left. Now for the next story. Am I an idiot for telling my sister her baby's name is freaking stupid? I, female 21, found out not too long ago that my sister, B, female 36, is pregnant after a long struggle with infertility, and I'm pumped and can't wait to be an aunt. Last week was the gender reveal party where my B broke down crying after cutting the cake and seeing it was pink inside. Her and her husband are thrilled because they apparently wanted a girl. She said right then that the baby would be named Mary. For reference, B is a born-again Christian. She found Jesus during her 3rd time in rehab. She'll go on and on to anyone who'll listen about how she had visions of the Virgin Mary by her bedside telling her she would get better, that the pain was temporary, and how she would do great things after recovering. That was 8 years ago. She met her husband not long after that, in church, of course, and fell head over heels in love, saying that God made them for each other. I kind of rolled my eyes at the declaration. Mary is just so old and boring. B asked me what was wrong. I was honest and told her I thought the name was a little boring. At the least she could do something like Miriam and make Mary a nickname. It's 2023. Kids will make fun of her for having an old lady name once she's older. I myself have an old lady name. Think Edith or something, and it's a pain. Kids in grade school constantly called me Grandma Edith, and the sort, saying I was destined to be an old hag who would live in the woods and have a crooked nose. I'm also worried for the baby. B isn't a reliable person. She's been sober for years and everyone still walks on eggshells around her. She used to run off to go on drug binges all the time, a few times leaving me home alone as a kid so she could meet one of her dealers while our parents were out. She brought it up a few days ago, mentioning how she was hurt. I didn't like the name and asked if I was being honest in my feelings. I told her I was. Mary is a freaking stupid name. She'll get bullied in school for it, or at the very least if she goes to some kind of Christian school it'll confuse the hell out of her because every other girl will be called Mary. She called me cruel and an idiot and accused me of hating her and not caring that she was finally in a good place in life. As if she hasn't been in a good place in life before and relapsed, leaving our parents in debt, paying for therapy and rehab that don't work, and letting us clean up all her messes over and over again. Am I an idiot? Not an idiot. Mary is one of the worst names I have ever heard and should be ridiculed. If it were me, I would have reacted far worse at the idea of someone in my family having such a terrible name. You're an idiot. Mary is a perfectly normal name. Your suggestion of Miriam sounds a lot more old-fashioned to me. Regardless, you were extremely rude to your sister. You're an idiot. You are literally dripping with hate from the get-go here. There is the hate, then the false concern, then the comparative, then more hate, then more false concern, then the scorn, then the pathetic attempt at poor me. But yup, you're the hero divided by